Welcome back to the It's a Classic podcast. I'm your host, Zion Lashua, and I'm joined once again by my good friend, Shawn Choi. Shawn, say hi. No, not this time.
No.
You refuse to bend to my whims?
I refuse.
Okay, well, at least we know you're here. So
It's a classic.
Oh, what? No. So today's episode is going to be focusing on the story of Theseus and Minos and kind of that whole overlap, because they each kind of have their own narrative, but obviously they intersect a bit. And we did actually touch a bit on Minos and his whole narrative in the Heracles episode.
And Theseus.
Yes, and Theseus was
Of
there
ship
too.
fame.
Of ship fame, which the ship is here.
Really?
Well, yeah, it comes up.
Oh, I thought it was just like a hypothetical. I didn't know it was an actual.
No, it's like, well, it's literally, we'll get to it in like an hour, because it's literally, here's where I talk about the ship,
Oh, okay.
right there. But it is kind of connected to him.
Do you replace every plank on the ship? And he's like, this is not my boat. I don't recognize this boat.
I don't know. You'll have to wait. Right. So the question is, you kind of mentioned, you know a lot about this story, right? It's a pretty common story. Luckily, there's kind of bits and pieces before and after that I think kind of flesh it out and are less known. But the main beats that you can just say what you know now, right?
Okay, cool. So I can talk, I can literally just like say everything I know about this?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Why
cool.
not, right?
So,
Just to get that out of the way.
I think the king of Minos asked Poseidon to give him a really beautiful cow so he could sacrifice it, which is a little bit weird. Like, hey, give me a present so I can give it back to you. So he got a white cow. He's like, man, no takesies backsies. That's mine.
Yeah, he wants it.
And then Poseidon got real mad, and then he made his wife fall in love with the cow and give birth to the Minotaur. Now that I think about it, I don't think I know that much about Theseus. I think I just know about the Minotaur.
The Minotaur. Yeah, well, the Minotaur is like the popular thing, right? It's kind of it's one of the, I think, most well-known bits of Greek mythology. Other than like, the general like Zeus, Hera, like the god names if you're just like an average person. But
does Zeus rape someone along the way?
Oh, dude. It wouldn't be a story in Greek mythology if you didn't.
So I was thinking about this on my drive over today.
Okay.
So we were talking about how in the first episode, like, women were kind of seen as inferior, and like
Yes.
only men can have like these.
Yeah,
romantic...
like the
why
true
didn't Zeus,
kind of.
Why didn't Zeus rape men then?
And men are like the truly cerebral kind of.
Oh, it's like a homo-romantic.
Yeah, the complete kind of.
They're for romance, and ladies are for
romance. Romance in the way that your minds can connect in a way, and you can have intelligent conversations. So like the ideal kind of what we would today perceive as like a good relationship. To the Greeks, it was really mostly thought of between it's only possible between two men.
Yeah, like two Greek men, they go to a mall. They don't spend the whole day faffing about. They just get a shirt and they leave, and then they go home and have sex with their wife.
Yeah, exactly. That's basically what happened. So wait, that was your question, is like, why does Zeus kind of go after women
Only
and not
ladies,
just men?
yeah.
There might be instances of him going after dudes as well, because
Also,
there are some
dudes can't get pregnant, so it doesn't make a weird, gross monster.
That's true. Or just like a strong dude.
Yeah,
like Heracles.
yeah. Oh yeah, Zeus has no part of the Minotaur, I think.
Well,
Well,
you'll be excited to know that this story starts with Zeus not being able to keep it in his pants. So this time, his the apple of his eye was named Europa. And
the entire continent?
No, but that's where the name comes from.
Oh.
Yes, her name was Europa, and she was the daughter of the king of Phoenicia, whose name was Agenor. Not super important, but that's his name. So what happened is Zeus took the form of a bull, whose breath smelled like roses and saffron, and like showed up to Europa and like whisked her away to Crete to then have kids with her. So, and they're like conflicting sources whether.
So he didn't rape her. He seduced her by being a cow that smelled like flowers.
There are different sources how much she liked it. Like there are some where she's like, "Oh my god, this bull's breath smells like roses. I'm in. I'll get on your back and we'll go wherever." And sometimes she's like, despite the fact of how good this bull's breath smells, it's still a bull and I'm not interested. But regardless, she takes it. So I actually have a couple other. Some of the other I put in some other weird times that Zeus shapeshifted to then get with someone.
Did he turn into a goose?
Yeah.
I mentioned this a lot because I feel like I heard that one time and it stuck in my brain that he turned into a goose.
So this one, that's actually with a woman named Leda, or Leda. So has sex with her as a swan. So like pretty similar, a bird. The sources which I didn't like was that she laid eggs. From this, okay. I was like, whoa, hold on. And one of those eggs may have hatched into Helen of Troy, like the famous Helen.
Oh.
And then many paintings. So in the medieval era, a lot of paintings.
More like
yeah?
Palin. Like Palin. No, don't use that.
And in the medieval era, there's a lot of kind of paintings about this subject of like a woman with like a swan, right? Like not like they didn't literally draw them having sex, but there was like an embrace with this swan. So it's like so that maybe where you've seen it. It's like really common in like medieval art. This like trope.
Also, swans hug by like wrapping their neck around your neck.
Yeah,
it's real cute.
It's cute. So
Do
another
swans
one.
have corkscrew penises like ducks?
I don't know. This isn't a duck podcast or a swan podcast.
This is no. We're offshooting.
We're offshoot.
We're pivoting.
We're pivoting to. We already talked.
It's a quacksick.
So anyway, back to Europa. He took her over to Crete, which is an island in the Mediterranean. And then they had 3 children: Sarpedon, Rhadamanthus, and then the important one, whose name you know, is Minos.
Oh, Zeus wasn't like a pump and dump. He like was like.
Yeah, they had 3 kids.
Yeah, so he was around for a while.
Yeah, he hung around for a bit.
Okay.
Then, but he didn't stay around forever because once Zeus left, Europa was like, well, I need a man. I got 3 kids. So she married the king of Crete, whose name was Asterios.
Man, this king, like this, she must have been real hot for this dude to be like, yeah, I'll take those 3 kids.
Yeah, those random kids, whatever.
You know, not that there's.
Sure.
Not to build into the narrative that like women are defiled once they've had sex and have children and they're like past their prime or anything. You know what I mean? Like it's like I just you know, step parenthood.
Dude, it's a good thing we're recording this like way before I need to air it because it sounds like I'm gonna have to edit a lot out. So now the 3 brothers, right, Rhadamanthus, Sarpedon, and Minos, are like princes, kind of, right? Because now they are. Because the king himself had
They're
no
step princes.
Yeah, but he had no other children. So the only people who couldn't
prince by default.
Yeah, so the only people who couldn't inherit the throne was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So it then came a time that they're all still fairly young. Minos and Sarpedon both fell in love with a boy named Miletus.
Wait, both Minos and
his brother Sarpedon
fell in love with a boy?
Yeah, a boy named Miletus.
Oh, that's right.
They had a crush, you know.
Yeah.
And so Miletus, however, was like, "Sorry, Minos, I like Sarpedon." So Minos waged war against his brother. Sarpedon and Miletus both fled before his rage, and Rhadamanthus was so disturbed by his ruthlessness that he also left. So Minos just like raised a group of people because he got rejected by some dude.
What dude is like, what like infantryman
is like, I will fight for this cause.
Yeah, this is a worthy cause. This is worth dying for.
They're probably just like, I guess my prince commands it. I don't know. But I think part of it was also probably a play for power, right? Because now that his brothers were gone, it was only him left to get the throne. So then Minos married a woman named Pasiphae, and they had a bunch of children. But the important ones are Catreus, Glaucus, they were the sons, and then Ariadne and Phaedra for daughters. So they'll come up later. Soon, King Asterios died. So the guy who was king died, and he had no children himself. So now Minos was now king of Crete. But the people of Crete didn't really like that. They didn't trust him because 1, he wasn't like really from the royal line, and 2, he like waged war because a boy rejected him. So they didn't really like him all that much. So in order to gain their trust, he said that the gods favor me. Don't worry. And I promise that whatever I pray for will happen, like here on Crete. So then, this is the part that you know. During a sacrifice to Poseidon, he claimed that he did not have a bull worthy of sacrifice. So he prayed that Poseidon would send him a bull worthy enough to sacrifice back to him. Mm-hmm. And then that happened. The next day, a colossal white bull emerged from the sea. But now Minos, like you said, thought the bull was too wonderful. He was like, I can't give this back.
No tagbacks.
So he sent it among his herds and then sacrificed another one, like a different bull. Poseidon was enraged and put a curse on Pasiphae, so that now she was in love with the bull. And then in order to actualize this love, to make it happen, she turned to a prisoner of Minos whose name was Daedalus, or Daedalus.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've heard that name before.
Yeah, he's important. So she turned to Daedalus.
Is he the one that makes the labyrinth?
Maybe. So there's a bit on his backstory real quick. So he's a genius. He was Athenian. He was an amazing architect, and he claims that he was the first to invent statues. Like just the concept of a statue. He's like, I did that first.
Sure.
Which I'm a bit skeptical of.
I mean,
that's fine.
Yeah. The timeline doesn't really seem to add up. But...
No, but you know. So as he aged, he took on pupils so he could teach them his genius of architecture and invention and all these things. Yeah? No?
This is very stupid. I thought you meant eye pupils.
He would steal pupils from people for his experiments.
He grew them because he was so wise.
Oh, I see. He had like supervision.
Uh-huh.
So one of these pupils was his nephew Talos, and Talos was also super intelligent and figured out that you
to Swellos.
Oh, like there's multiple Talos. So Talos figured out that he could use a snake's jawbone as a new tool. So he was like, oh, if I take it out and like I use it to like go back and forth along wood and stuff, we can cut it like a saw. So he invented the saw using a snake's jawbone.
I don't know if that holds up.
What do you mean?
They've only got 2 teeth.
What?
They got 2 fangs.
No, they got more teeth.
They got more than 2 teeth?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Those are just
teeth? The fangs are the ones that inject the venom, but they have more teeth.
You can snap a chicken bone pretty easily. And I wouldn't imagine a snake bone is that much sturdier.
Well, maybe that's why he was such a genius, because he figured out how to use a bone in like an effective way. So Daedalus was freaking out. He was like, this new discovery is going to completely dwarf anything I've ever done. Who cares about statues when we can cut wood in half? So he was like, Talos, you should come with me up to the Acropolis. We'll go hang out. He then pushed Talos off the Acropolis and killed him because he was jealous of his discovery.
Good thing it's a flying type.
So he was fine. When the body was discovered, Daedalus was sent to trial and found guilty, and then he was sent into exile at the court of Minos. So that's how he ended up there.
Okay.
Upon her request, Daedalus created a wooden framework of a cow and then covered it in cow skin to make like a cow.
To like pretend that it's the white cow?
To pretend that it's a cow.
Oh.
So Pasiphae crawled inside the framework and then set it up in front of the white bull.
Oh, so the bull thinks it's
So then the white bull's like, oh my god, this is like a sexy cow.
Oh my god.
So I'm going to go have sex with this cow.
This guy really was like, all right, I'm down for this. Daedalus was like...
He's like a prisoner,
right.
and then the queen comes and was like, I want you to make me a cow. And he's like...
Make me a fursuit.
He's like, okay, oh god. So then Pasiphae used this to have sex with the bull, leading to her being pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
So then 9 months later, she gave birth to the monster, the Minotaur, a man with a bull head and a human body, which she named after... She's actually not related to the dude, but she named it after the old king of Crete, Asterios. So the Minotaur's name is actually Asterios, but no one ever calls it that.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so you asked at one point, Alistair, why is that like a very common Minotaur name? This could just be a translation thing. Right?
Okay.
Like Asterios, Alistair are like fairly
That's
similar
cool.
names.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Anyway, so Minos was horrified with this monstrosity. So
hold on.
Yeah.
It came out like a little baby, right?
Yeah, it was just
I feel like a Minotaur baby would be a little cute.
A little baby with like a cow.
Have you seen a baby cow? Those things are adorable.
Yeah, but then it's on a human baby. I think it's just more the monstrosity of like, oh my god, what am I looking at? Maybe it's kind of cute, but the fact that it's like a crime against humanity is maybe the upsetting part.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it'd probably be kind of cute.
I think in my mind, I keep imagining a centaur. It has a human body except...
It has a human
Everything
body.
is human except for the face.
It has a cow face.
Okay.
Or bull face. And I think it has like fur and stuff, like kind of patchy. So Minos was horrified with the monstrosity, so he consulted oracles about what to do. And they said that he must keep the beast trapped and not kill it. They didn't say why, but he has to do that. So he then turns to Daedalus once again and is like, I need you to build a prison for the beast. So Daedalus then began work on the labyrinth. So sometime later, this is when we talked about this, Heracles would show up and he would capture the father of the Minotaur, the big white bull. And then he would take it to where he had to take it.
Oh, that was one of his like...
Yeah, he had to go get the bull. So he captured the father of the Minotaur. And then eventually the bull would wander off to Marathon after he like deals with it. So Heracles shows up, takes the bull to where he needs it to go. The bull then wanders. The bull then wanders off to Marathon. Yeah. Then
color run.
What?
He does a color run. Oh my god!
Oh, he does a bubble
in Spain.
Run. What? Oh, they're running with the bulls.
Yeah, with tomatoes.
Is that the color run meets bull meets? Is that like it's all just
coalescing? It all kind of coalesces into one not funny joke.
So now we're going to talk about some of Minos' kids real quick, right? So the first one that I mentioned a bit ago, his name was Catreus. So Catreus had 3 daughters and 1 son. Althamenes is the son. So one day, this is like the worst thing you can do as like someone who exists in Greek mythology, Catreus asked an oracle how he would die. And the oracle was like, oh, one of your children's going to kill you. So he's like, So Althamenes heard this and was like, okay, me and my sister, Epimesine, are going to leave so we don't kill you, father, because we love you.
Oh.
So
why don't they just resolve themselves and not kill him?
They were like, the only way we can guarantee not killing you is never looking at you again. Mm-hmm. So they sailed to Rhodes, leaving Crete so that they wouldn't kill him. While the two were in Rhodes, Hermes showed up and lusts after Epimesine. Right? So Hermes is like, oh man, I want her.
Are goddesses just not hot?
Well, I think it's probably like, as the gods, right? There's like a fair amount of them, but you got like, I was going to say their options are pretty limited because there's only a certain amount of goddesses.
That's true.
Like, and they're all related. Most of them, right?
Can't a god just make a really hot human being and be like, yeah.
Probably. Although the
Wait, they can shapeshift. Why don't they just turn into hot women and have sex with each other? All right, it's my turn to be the girl.
Yeah.
So you gotta hook me up next time.
So I'm gonna be the bull this time, and then you be the girl.
You be the girl, but inside of a bull statue.
Yeah. So Hermes was chasing after Epimesine, and she, this I thought was pretty interesting. She actually outruns him. Like Hermes just can't catch up with this girl.
He's got wings on his feet.
I know. He's like the god of like transportation. He's just like, oh man, I'm tired. So
should not have eaten all that pasta last night.
So instead he throws animal skins in front of her and she trips on them. So lame.
Okay.
Just a lame move. So then Hermes rapes her, and then Epimesine goes to tell her brother. She's like, Althemenes, Hermes showed up and raped me. And he's like, I don't believe you, and then kicks her and she dies.
Wow, that lady had a rough go.
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh my god, wait. So like Althemenes just like, a god here? No way. It's like, how dare you suggest that, and then kicks her. So now jump cut to when Catreus is an old man, and he's like, man, I want to see my son again. I haven't seen him in so long. So he travels to Rhodes.
And then he kicks him and he dies.
Maybe. He travels to Rhodes to find his son to pass on his kingdom also. He's like, I'm going to die. I need my son so he can take over. So when he landed on Rhodes, he was driven away by shepherds who thought he was a pirate. So they were like, he's a pirate. And then the dogs of the shepherds were barking so loud that they couldn't hear him say, no, I'm not a pirate. So they were like, he's a pirate. And it's like, I'm not a pirate. Row, 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 row. So they couldn't hear him. So then Althemenes shows up and is like, what's going on? And then the shepherds are like, there's a pirate. And he's like, oh, I'll handle this, and throws a spear and kills the guy.
Wow.
Without even being like, that guy looks a lot like my dad if he aged 30 years.
I wonder why my dad is flying a skull and crossbones flag. That's really weird.
That's a weird choice. Then what he realized what he had done, he's like, oh my god, I killed my father like the prophecy foretold. He prays to be swallowed up by the earth. So then a big chasm opens up and he falls in and dies. That's the end of his story.
The gods, like...
Yeah, dude.
Why would they grant that wish?
They're like, they probably just get so many samey wishes. It's like, I want food. I want water.
I want love. Oh my god, this dude wants to be eaten by the earth. Yo. Sign me up. No, this is mine.
I want this one. Put that one on the fast track. Let's do that one right now. The City of Thieves can wait to have some wheat or whatever. I don't care. So then we're going to talk about another one of Minos' kids, Glaucus. So when he was young, and he was chasing a mouse, and then he falls into a jar of honey and dies. He drowns in the honey. This is not where I'm putting the honey ad, by the way.
This episode brought to you by honey.
Are you drowning? Do you want to drown in the money that you'll save from using the free browser extension? So
wait, hold on. Can I guess how this goes?
This goes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
He didn't actually die. He was preserved in the honey, and 100 years later, he woke up.
Like Encino Man.
What's Encino Man?
It's like it's a movie, I think with Brendan Fraser or something, where he plays a Neanderthal who was frozen in ice and then thaws out in the city of Encino in like 2014 or whatever. Oh. So yeah, Glaucus, he was chasing a mouse and he fell into a jar of honey and drowned.
How big was this jar of honey?
So it's like, I forget the name of these things, but we've actually in Crete specifically where the kingdom of Minos was, in the kind of ruined basement, we found kind of big, huge jars that were used as containers for like all sorts of stuff.
Saw the body of a child.
No, because later. Anyway, but they saw a skeleton perfectly preserved in honey, or a body. I guess it wouldn't be a skeleton if it.
All right. Anyway,
so Minos was beside himself and wanted a way to revive his son. Mm-hmm. He was like, someone's got to be able to bring this boy back. He's in honey. He's basically still alive. Mm-hmm. He consulted oracles again, and they said that. So the oracle was like, okay, here's what we got to do. You, Minos, you have a cow in your fields, right? That changes colors throughout the day from white to red to black. And Minos was like, yes, of course, I know this cow. This is a common cow that everyone knows about. I have the magical color shifting cow. Mm-hmm. Whoever can describe this color shifting cow in the least amount of like words is the one who can heal your son.
Can I give it a go?
Yeah.
Cow.
No, I think they want specifically the color changing aspect. So Minos then assembles all the diviners from Crete, which are people who...
Hold on, I got it.
Okay.
Colorful.
You know what? I think if you were there, you would have been the one that he'd be like, you know what? You're my man. Mm-hmm. Bring this boy back to life. And then you're like, One question. Is he in honey? Yes. Okay, easy. So then
you can like try to give him CPR, but like then you just like shove some honey down their throat.
Or like as you're giving CPR, lungs. Like you blow and then he just will like the honey will just come up into your mouth. You're like, oh,
and you like lift yourself up. There's like a string of honey connecting your lips.
And then you drown in the honey. So Minos assembled all the diviners from Crete, which are like, people who can like somewhat see the future. They're not quite oracle level. They're like below oracle. And they can do some magic and stuff. Mm-hmm. He's like, okay, what is this cow? Describe this cow to me. And they're all like, oh, it can change colors or whatever. So they're not very helpful. One dude, Polyeidos, is like, dude, it's like a blackberry. And Minos is like, what? It's like, you know how when blackberries grow, they start off as white, and then they become red, and then they become black, like over the course of their growth cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just like, that's how blackberries work. And so Minos is like, oh my god, a single word, blackberry. It's you. And Polyidus is like, what? Because he didn't tell him why he assembled them all.
He assembled a bunch of these like apprentice sorcerers and was like, describe this cow for me.
Yes. So then Minos then takes Polyidus and locks him into a cell with the dead body of his child. And it's like, okay, bring it back to life now.
Oh.
And Polyidus is like, what?
I'm just here with a sticky body? What do you want me to do?
What can I do? So like months pass. Polyidus is sitting in there with the body. It doesn't.
Does he get food or does he have to lick the honey off the child?
Honey. I assume he gets food. He it doesn't specifically say months, but he says that he was in there for so long until he starts to go mad. Mm-hmm. So a long time. Then a snake comes, like a snake slithers its way into the cell, and it starts going for the body. And Polyidus is like, oh my god, if the snake bites the body, then it'll be even more damaged than when I got it, and that's the reverse of what I'm trying to do. Mm-hmm. So he kills the snake. Like Polyidus grabs a rock and like bashes the snake's like head in. And he's like, okay. So then he goes back to, I don't know what he's doing, just like rocking back and forth in panic or something.
Like Weekend at Bernie's-ing with the child.
That's his plan. Uh-huh. He just like, so he's like, hey dad, I'm alive again. This Polyidus guy's great. So then later another snake comes. Then the snake goes up to the dead snake, right, and looks at it. Polyidus is just like looking at this. That snake then leaves. Then the snake that's still alive comes back with an herb in its mouth. Then it rubs the herb all over the dead snake, and the dead snake comes back to life.
Damn.
Polyidus is like, oh my god. So he grabs the herb from the snake, rubs it on the body, and then Glaucus is alive again.
I am upset that this king's plan worked.
Right? Like he locked a dude in there who had no idea what to do, and then he just stumbled into it because he killed a snake. So Minos is like super happy, but he wanted more because he's, greedy. He was like, okay, Polyidus, that's good. Now, Glaucus, he's kind of a do-nothing nobody, so you should teach him, like, the arts of divination and, like, stuff. And, like, also, teach him how to revive people, too. That'll be useful. And Polyidus is like, so under compulsion, Polyidus taught Glaucus all of this, but he realized, like, this knowledge is, like, cursed knowledge. We cannot know how to revive the dead. Mm-hmm. That is, like, the worst thing that we could know as a species. So, as he's leaving the kingdom, right, he's like, so Polyidus is like, after he's taught Glaucus all of this knowledge, even the reviving, he's like, I'm gonna leave. Okay. And then as he's leaving, he's like, Glaucus, come here. He's like, all right, Glaucus, spit in my mouth
and call me daddy. Yeah. Or I'll call you daddy.
So Glaucus is like, okay, and then spits in Polyidus' mouth. And then as he does that, Glaucus forgets everything that he learned.
Okay.
Some snake magic, dude. I don't know. Maybe he learned this from the snakes too. That's the end of Glaucus' story. I just thought that was wild and whack, and I wanted to put it in.
What happened to him?
Glaucus? He was just a kid.
Oh, what happened to the dude who...
he left. So Polyidus, right, who taught him all the knowledge, is like going to leave the kingdom and go somewhere else. He's going to go to Argos, right? He's just leaving. Mm-hmm. Then as he's leaving, he's like, Glaucus, come here. And then Glaucus is like, oh man, I forgot how to revive the dead. And Polyidus is like, bye.
Oh, the old man spits in the kid's mouth. I thought the kid spat in the old man's mouth.
The kid does spit in the old man's. Glaucus is the kid, right? Polyidus is the old man. So then Polyidus is like, Glaucus, spit in my mouth. And then as Glaucus spits into the mouth, he forgot all the knowledge that Polyidus taught him.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought it was the spit going in the mouth that made him forget. It's him spitting that makes him forget. It's the spit
leaving his body, which somehow contains the knowledge that he learned from Polyidus. Uh-huh. And that's the end of his story.
Okay.
So now...
Did he forget everything?
It says he specifically forgot what he learned from Polyidus.
Okay.
So he didn't just like be like, oh my god, wait, a mouse, I should go chase it.
He's a grown man now.
He's a grown man chasing a mouse and falls into the honey again. So now, big transition. We got to talk about Aegeus. So he's the current king of Athens. So him and his 4 brothers had led an army and taken control of the territory. And while they did divide the kingdom into 4 parts, Aegeus is the one who got the power because his section was the part with like the main city in it. Like he had the middle. Mm-hmm. So he was beginning to get kind of nervous because his brothers had tons of kids each, right? Like so many sons, and he had no sons. And so he did have 2 wives. So it wasn't for a lack of trying that he didn't have a son. He just couldn't make it happen. Mm-hmm. So fearing that his brothers would use this to usurp him, right? Being like, you don't have an heir, I'm going to be the king now. He went to Delphi to get a prophecy as to how he could have a son. So the oracle told him this: the bulging mouth of the wineskin, most excellent of men, untie it not until you have arrived at the height of Athens.
Okay.
You want to hazard a guess as what that means? So
the bulging mouth
of the wineskin.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to.
Is this is it like a metaphorical wineskin? Can you give me that at least?
Yeah. It's not literally a wineskin. They're not talking about a wineskin.
Is it all I can think about is bulges. Like, is it like the bulge of the Minotaur? Okay.
You were going somewhere with bulges, and then you brought the Minotaur in. I'm like, no.
Oh, like a bulge in like a mountain?
No.
No, like a different bulge.
You were closer with the bulge of the
Like
Minotaur.
the jockstrap of the Minotaur.
The Minotaur's not involved.
Why are we talking about this then?
Because he's trying to have a kid. Anyway, so
his bulge.
Maybe.
He needed to have sex on the top of a mountain?
Oh, on top of where?
The peak of Athens.
That's a peak. Dude, you got it. Now, unfortunately, he didn't get it. He was like, I have no idea what this means.
I need to go kill the Minotaur.
He's like, the Minotaur's bulge. That's the key. So, on his way back to Athens, right, he stays with a friend whose name is Pythias. So, Pythias, he's staying with him, and Aegis got drunk and then blabbed about how cryptic the oracle is. He's like, I don't understand what this means. Can you decipher this? And he's like, blah, blah, wineskin, whatever. Pythias is like, oh my God, of course I know what that means.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to have sex with a dude, and I have his children.
The mouth of the wineskin, it's the penis.
Mm-hmm.
So a wineskin, actually, in like colloquialisms in ancient Greece, was you could talk about the stomach. Like if you say wineskin, it meant the stomach. So the mouth of the wineskin would be the penis.
Mm-hmm.
So the prophecy is basically saying Aegis will have a son with the next woman that he sleeps with. So in order to like make it so that he's like a proper son, wait till you get back to Athens and have sex with your wife.
Oh, okay.
But Pythias is like, so if he has sex with a woman right now, that kid will be the next king of Athens. So Pythias is like, hey, Aegis, you should sleep with my daughter.
Oh.
So that happens. So Aegis then sleeps with his daughter, Aethra. So on the same night, Aethra also caught the eye of Poseidon, so he also slept with her. That'll come up later.
Do the sperms mix together?
They mingle.
Demigod?
They mingle. Yeah, exactly. And so now...
That's not... I don't think the Greeks knew
that's how it works. That's how it works. What do you mean? The human sperm and the god sperm, they mix together to make a demigod sperm.
You know, that's how gay people have children now, with artificial insemination.
Yeah, with god sperm?
No. They both just splurge in a tube, they mix it around.
Yeah, the swirl, yeah.
Yeah, and
I've watched Modern Family.
And then that kid is half, the surrogate mother, and half the one dad and half the other dad.
So 3 halves. Oh, Gilgamesh is back.
Oh wait, this is before that episode.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so just for just keep that in mind later. You'll answer. We answered our own question in the past.
That joke will be amazing later.
Yeah.
So the next morning, Aegis like wakes up and he's like, "Hey, Aethra, on like the off chance that you have a son, which like is not going to happen because I haven't been able to have a son in years.
Hit me up sometime."
No, it's like, you should raise him not knowing who his father is because it'll be dangerous because I'm the king and stuff. And also, here, take this sword and these sandals and put him under a giant rock that is like so big that only if he's truly my son could he lift it.
Wow.
Anyway, bye.
How did the girl move the rock to put it on top of the sandal?
He moved it, I think. Like Aegis moved the rock.
Oh, is Aegis real strong?
It's like kind of strong. It's like, I assume it's not that big of a rock, but it's like big enough that like only like a burly man could lift it.
Mm-hmm.
So Aegis then quickly forgot about this, right? Because it's just a one-night stand, whatever, right? Then he gets back and just can't have a son with his wife. He's like, I thought it said the height of Athens. So now Aegis returns to Athens just in time for the Pan-Athenian Games, which is just like kind of like the Olympics, but specifically for Athena, whereas the Olympics were held in Olympus.
Oh, Athens is named after Athena?
Yeah.
That's very obvious.
I thought we talked about this, where like there was a competition between like the...
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
And, like, Poseidon.
Like Athena gives them an olive tree and Poseidon gives them a saltwater fountain. And they're like, we like olives.
So in an alternate universe, they could have been named...
Poseidon.
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 Poseidon. No. Whatever.
There probably is like an ancient Greek city-state like...
Named after Poseidon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Aegis returns to Athens just in time for the Pan-Athenian Games, right? So in these games, Androgeos, who's the son of Minos, like another one of the kids...
Did he look feminine?
I thought that too. They didn't actually explicitly mention anything about that.
Okay.
So Androgeos was the son of Minos and was like winning every single event. Aegis was like salty about this, so he's like, "Hey, Androgeos, you're like so strong. Why don't you go kill the bull of Marathon?" There's like a really powerful bull, the white bull, the Poseidon white bull is in Marathon now, right? He's like, "Why don't you go kill that bull? It's like terrorizing those people, and you won all these events, so you'll
terrorizing them."
Yeah.
Oh, he just like, he was harassing them.
Yeah, he was harassing the
Okay.
So he's like, "You should go free Marathon because you won all these events. You're gonna easily kill this bull." And Androgeos is like, "Yeah, I will kill this bull." So then he goes and the bull kills him. So then Minos, right? He hears that his son was killed by a bull, which already probably stings because it's the same bull that like had sex with his wife.
It's his cuck.
Yeah, and then also just killed his son.
Yeah.
He's livid, right? And so then he marches on Athens. So he sets out with a fleet. So not march. He sailed. He sets out with a fleet and goes to Athens. But first he needed to take Megara, which is a city-state that's near Athens. And it was ruled by a dude named Nisos. There was a prophecy about Nisos. that, so Nisos, this dude, he had a single purple hair that grew out of the center of his head. And it was said that if the hair was pulled out, he would die. And the city was very well protected. So Minos is like, I can't get into the city. So what he does is he infiltrates the city by himself and seduces the daughter of Nisos. And he promises her like, oh man, if you just do this one little thing for me, I'll marry you and you'll have all the riches that you could ever want. And all the thing you got to do is just pluck out your dad's purple hair. So then she's like, oh, okay.
Was this a well-known like myth?
Yeah, everybody knows this about Nisos.
Okay,
just like,
so this girl was very okay with murdering her father.
Killing her dad, yeah. So then she plucks out the hair, Nisos dies, and then she allowed like Minos to come in and like conquer the city. But then he lied. Because instead of marrying her and like giving her riches, he tied her by her feet to the prow of the ship and drowning her. So you know how like often like ships have like a mermaid on the front, right? It's like that, except she's upside down, so her head's in the water, and so she drowns.
What? This guy's...
I know.
How do we... why are we talking about this guy?
We don't like Minos. Minotaur.
Oh, he's the king of Minos. Or wait.
Crete. His name is Minos. He's the king of Crete.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Minotaur just means Minos' bull.
Oh.
By the bull of Minos.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So then he moved on to Athens, right? Like he had conquered Megara, which he needed to get to Athens. He could not capture the city, so he prayed to Zeus, and Zeus sent a famine and a plague to Athens. So Athens then sought out local oracles on how to solve the problem. They sacrificed a bunch of virgins, but it didn't work. So they killed a bunch of these virgins for no reason. The plague didn't let up and the famine didn't lift. Then they went to Delphi. So they basically went to like...
It's very convenient that every time our protagonist needs something, he goes to an oracle and everything they say turns out to be true. Mm-hmm. But their enemy, when they go to an oracle and they say to sacrifice some virgins, it doesn't work.
Well, this kind of analogy that I liked is they kind of went to the Kirkland brand oracle. And then after that, they're like, that doesn't work. Let's go to Delphi. Like the legit kind of name brand oracle.
Gotcha.
So then they go to Delphi, and Delphi's like, here's my advice. Give up. Just give Minos whatever he wants. So Athens is like, all right. So they give up. And so what Minos demands is that every year, 7 boys and 7 girls must be sent from Athens to Crete to be fed to the Minotaur.
Why is he keeping his Minotaur alive?
The oracle told him to. The oracle told him to do it.
You can't just give him, like, cow meat?
Nah, he wants human flesh.
But, I mean, if he... Okay, I'm assuming because it's, like, a cannibal and it's like a horror.
Sure.
But, like, it's also a cow. So
yeah.
Eating a cow is also cannibalism.
Yeah, so maybe he should have been like, okay, 7 people and 7 cows, so we can balance out his diet.
But make sure they eat a lot of veggies beforehand.
Yeah. He's not getting his veggies. He's just eating all meat. He's going to get scurvy. And, yeah, the tributes would be sent into the labyrinth to be consumed by the Minotaur. So this tribute system between Athens and Crete would go on for, like, years, sapping the strongest youths from Athens every time. So, like, it was also, like, the strongest ones, right? Like, the best, kind of most... promising
that was his like requirement
of the generation, yeah. And so like, well, he would show up in some versions and like hand select them himself, so he would pick the strongest.
Okay.
And meanwhile, Aethra, right? Remember her? She had given birth to a son. She was the one who hooked up with Aegis that one time. Pythias' daughter.
Oh, yeah.
So Aethra had given birth to a son, surprise, and named him Theseus. So now Theseus had grown up with a fairly normal life, right? He was just like kicking it and like.
And then one day, he lifted a rock.
When he was fully grown, Aethra's like, "You're grown now. You can lift this rock." And so then Theseus lifts the rock and finds the sword and the sandals.
Is it relevant that is he like half god because of Poseidon's
Yes.
goop? Okay.
But that hasn't like come up yet.
Okay.
Like he didn't know anything about his parentage, right? Like Aethra didn't tell him anything about it. So she gave him the sword and the sandals and told him like who his father was. Like, your father's the king of Athens, you need to go to him because now you're like full grown and like he now knew that he was the son of Aegis and that he needed to go to Athens to claim his place by the side of his father. So he set off. So now he has a bit of a journey to get to Athens. So he faced all manner of enemies on the road. For this was around the time, so if you remember in the Heracles episode, so towards the end of the Heracles epic, Heracles gets enslaved, and so he's not around to like save the land and clear the land.
Doesn't he choose to be a slave?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but regardless, he's not journeying around Greece and like killing all the bad guys. So this is where Theseus kind of like steps up to the plate and like kills some of the bad guys that are terrorizing because Heracles isn't there. So the first of these enemies, his name is Corynetes, the club man. He carried a large iron club that he would bash the heads in of anyone who crossed his path. But he was weak on his feet, so he used the club as like a cane. So he would like fool people, be like, "Oh, I'm a feeble old man," and then like beat them with
bonk.
Yeah, exactly. So when Theseus walked by, he attempts to smack him with the club, right, Corynetes. But then Theseus, like his reflexes are too good, and he grabs the club and then turns around and like bashes Corynetes' head in. So then Theseus would now always carry this iron club with him. So it's kind of neat. He gained a cool tool, a surprise tool that will help him later. His next enemy that he encountered his name was Sinus, the Pine Bender. And so what this dude would do...
He gets all clogged up when it's the autumn season. There's a joke in there
I'm struggling.
Sinus and
Oh,
trees.
Sinus, right, okay, yeah. So what he would do is he would bend down pine trees and then force people to hold them down.
And then boing them?
Yeah. Well, eventually they would become so tired, they'd be like, I can't hold the pine tree anymore. And he'd be like, ah, shame. And then they would get flung and they would die.
Why don't they just let go?
Because he's like, this is kind of a weird thing. Like, they don't explicitly explain how he forces these people to do this. But he forces them to, like, hold down the tree. And then eventually they're, like, so tired they can't, and then they get flung.
Okay.
So then... or, other version, he would bend down 2 pine trees and attach them to the limbs of people, and they would fling in opposite directions to tear the people apart.
Oh.
So he just liked bending down pine trees. And then
Was he a man?
Yeah, he was a dude.
Oh, okay.
These are mostly just dudes.
Okay.
So Theseus, this is why it's important that it's like people held down the trees. Anyway, so Theseus was so strong that like he held down the pine for like way longer than Sinis was like used to. So he's just like, dude, this pine tree's like kind of easy to hold down. Are you sure you picked like one that'll kill me? And Sinis is like, hold on, let me try. And then like he goes over and holds down the pine tree. And like Theseus is like, okay, and then lifts, and then like Sinis gets thrown and dies.
Okay. Because
he couldn't like handle it. Theseus encounters Phaia, the monstrous sow, which is a giant pig. So they're not all just dudes. Okay, this is cool. A giant pig terrorizing Chromion. And apparently was born from a wicked old woman whose name was also Phaia, and everyone hated her. There's no detail about how he killed it.
Okay.
But my money is on the iron.
He just traveled, he saw a pig,
bashed him with the iron club. Next guy he encountered, his name was Sirion, the Corinthian. So this dude, he stationed himself like by a cliff overlooking the ocean. Mm-hmm. And he would force people to wash his feet. And
the humanity.
And while they were doing so, he would kick them into the sea, where they would be eaten by a giant turtle. This is you know this is the good stuff right here.
Yeah, I like when the stories have like these weird animals.
Yeah. So while Theseus was washing his feet, what he did was he just grabbed him by the ankles and then threw him into the ocean, and so then the turtle ate him.
Smee. Oh, was the turtle really hungry for him the whole time, and that's
Probably.
why he was laying down there?
He was like,
yeah,
like the crocodile in Peter Pan. Yeah. So then. Theseus encountered a dude named Circeon. So what he would do is he would force anybody who locked eyes with him into a wrestling match, and then he would kill them.
Like a Pokemon battle.
Like a Pokemon battle. But Theseus easily beat him by lifting him over his head and then throwing him to the ground. It's like an epic like wrestler move. So then he encountered a dude named Damastus the Beater.
It really sounds like he's not planning on fighting these.
And he just encounters them.
He just encounters them randomly and hits them.
I think that's basically what's happening, right?
Okay.
Like he walks up to this dude who's like, wash my feet. And he's like, okay. He's just washing his feet, and then he realizes, wait, this guy's going to kick me, and then throws him to eat the turtle. Or maybe he looks down and he's like, there's a giant turtle down there.
He looked hungry.
I should feed him. Like, it's not even like a malicious thing.
Yeah, it's like...
So then he encounters a dude named Damastus the Beater. So this dude, Damastus, had a house by the roadside with 2 beds. One was really short and one was long. He would offer hospitality to those who passed by, but if you didn't fit the bed, he would make you. If you were too tall, he would saw off parts of you to fit the bed, or beat you with the hammers to make you fit, like crush you down so you fit on the bed. And if you're too short, he would attach anvils to your feet to stretch you out so you fit the bed. I wish that Theseus showed up and was like the perfect height for the bed, and was just like, I guess
nothing I can do. I'm on my way now.
But instead, what he did is like he was bound to the bed, and then he just like flexes and breaks free of the bindings, then grabs his hammers and beats the guy to death.
Oh my god, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. So this whole section, they kind of really emphasize the fact that whatever these people would do to like the passerby is how Theseus beat them, right? Like he beats him with the hammers, he
beats him with the club, and
he like throws him, he gets him eaten by the turtle, like that kind of thing.
So the way he beats the king of Minos is by. Does he hold him upside? Does he attach him to his Theseus' ship in the front?
Oh my god, dude! The one that may or may not be the same ship
because he replaced all the boards.
Yeah. So then he makes it to Athens.
Okay.
Woo. So now the king, Aegisthus, is married to Medea at the time. Now Medea has her own crazy story.
Tyler Perry dressed up as a big fat lady.
Yeah, so you know how he's in so many different movies? He's also just in ancient Greece. He's a time traveling mystic. So this is Medea's mad crazy Greek story. I don't know. So this Medea though, sorry to burst your bubble, is not the same Tyler Perry Medea.
How do you know?
I guess I don't. But she has her own crazy story. Which will probably be its own episode at some point. But regardless, she's like a sorceress who came from like the Far East. She has a whole bunch of stuff. She kills some kids, so she gets banned from one city-state, and then she runs to another city-state, and eventually she ends up in Athens marrying the king.
Okay.
So anyway, she's here. And she has a kid with Aegisthus, right? A son. So she convinces Aegisthus that this newcomer, Theseus, is a danger and that he should get rid of him. Because she's trying to preserve her son's right to the throne, right? Because this guy, if is actually a son of the king, would outrank her son.
But how would she know that he's the son of the king?
Because she's magic or something.
Okay.
I don't know actually how she knows this. So Aegis did not recognize his son because like how could he? He'd never met him. So he sent the strange newcomer. He's like, which I think is this probably.
He didn't see the sandals and the sword?
Not yet. So this is probably what he did to like all people who showed up. He's like, yo, you seem kind of strong. There's this bull over in Marathon that's harassing the citizens. You should go kill it. So this time Theseus goes and he kills the bull of Marathon.
Is there any
detail about how?
No, he
kills him. My money again is on the club.
Yeah.
Or I guess it comes down to like how was the bull harassing the citizens? Because then you probably just do that to the bull. You know what I mean? Like he.
Well, we did this joke in the Hercules episode, but like,
hey yo, oh yeah, maybe that's true. So Aegis sent this kid to go kill the bull of Marathon, expecting it to kill him, right? So the Theseus kills the bull, and then he comes back, and Aegis throws a giant feast to like celebrate. He's like, oh my god, you're amazing. But then Medea is like, okay, this dude's still dangerous though. Let's poison his wine. So you like put some poison in his wine, and then like just as Theseus is about to like take a sip of the wine, right? He's thinking he moves and his like cloak opens, and then Aegis is like, that's my sword at his hip, and he like slaps the wine out of his hand. He's like, my son has returned home.
He knew it was poisoned.
Yeah, Medea convinced him to poison it.
Oh, okay.
Like they're working together up until this point.
Why would he bother throwing him a feast?
Okay. Well, I guess to make him drink wine. He could have just been like, here, have some wine. But he's probably like, at the feast, he'll drink wine.
Also, you still got to get the dude props for dealing with the bull.
Yeah, right? Like, I mean, like, I'm going to kill him.
Yeah.
But, like, that bull's been there for, like, so long. I sent, like, 80 people, and they all died of the bull. So then Theseus and Aegis together, like, drive Medea out. Because they're like, oh, my God, he's trying to kill my son. So now, Theseus then learns about the tribute that must be offered by Athens to Minos every year.
Send me.
He insists that he be a part of the tribute. So that
How
he can
young
stop
is he?
this.
I imagine he's like a grown man.
He's like, when he lifts the boulder, he's like 18.
Okay.
So he's probably like 19, maybe 20.
So not really saying children.
No, just like the young men and women, I guess is better. So then Aegis like reluctantly agrees. He's like, okay, you can go, but I'm really so sad. Before Theseus leaves, Aegis takes note of the black sails that the Minos uses to like pick up the people. And he's like, okay, if you survive, switch the sails to white. So when I see them on the horizon, I'll know you lived.
Can he wait until he just gets onto the ocean or like gets off the ocean? Like
He needs to know like as soon as possible. So the tribute then arrives on Crete. Minos. So again, the version is kind of conflicted whether Minos goes to Athens himself to like select. But in this kind of narrative, or maybe it wouldn't matter either way. But anyway, Minos has his eyes on one of the young girls who has arrived with Theseus. He's like, he wants her. Theseus steps in between them and forbids Minos to touch her. He's like, I forbid you to touch this woman, for I am the son of Poseidon, and forbid it. Minos
knew that?
Yeah. Now he knows, like, because he heard about his birthright from his mom when he turned 18. When he got the sword, she informed him. So Minos laughs. It's like, prove it. What do you mean you're a son of Poseidon? It's like, oh, look, I'm a son of Zeus, whatever. So he takes off his ring, right, and, like, chucks it into the ocean. He's like, go get it. If you're the son of Poseidon, you can go get my ring, right?
Floats up?
No. So then he's like, and if you do get it, I give my word that I will not lay a hand on any of you until you get eaten by my son tomorrow. Or my son-in-law.
No, wait.
It was his wife. So not son-in-law, stepson?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like we said earlier in the episode, step-parenthood is as beautiful as
you're not trying to stigmatize. Yeah. So Theseus is like, okay. So he dives into the ocean, and then this Amphitrite, which is the wife of Poseidon, like another sea goddess, appears to him and is like guides him to the ring.
Why don't you just give him the ring?
She's like, oh, here's the ring, and then he grabs it, and then like as he's leaving, she like creates like a crown made of coral and gems, like puts it on his head. So then he like ascends out of the ocean like David Hasselhoff in the SpongeBob
movie. His pecs open wide, and he shoots the ring out.
Yeah, he just like slowly he rises from the ocean and ascends and walks up to the beach where Minos and all the tributes are like waiting. And not only does he have the ring clutched in his hand, he just also has this like big sea crown on. And so Minos is like obviously like super upset by this. He's like, this dude like totally just showed me up, but he's bound by his word to like not touch any of them.
But he said he would marry that one girl, and he wasn't bound to his word then.
It's true. He just drowned her.
So inconsistent character.
True. Ariadne, his daughter, Minos' daughter, was also there on the beach and was like, yo,
that guy's so hot.
This dude is so hot. His pecs can like shift like mechanical mechanisms. So that night, Ariadne goes to Theseus and promises to help him if he promises to marry her. So it's like, if you marry me, I'll help you like navigate the labyrinth and survive. So Theseus agrees. So then Ariadne...
I can see where this is going.
So Ariadne goes to Daedalus. It's like, yo, how do you navigate the labyrinth? I have an engagement writing on this. And Daedalus is like, oh, here's what you do. You take this line of thread, you tie it to something near the beginning of the labyrinth, and it will lead you out. when you like go in.
That's not how you beat the labyrinth. That's how you get out of it.
Yeah.
He didn't
That's
give
all
him
you
any...
need. It's apparently like based on how it's designed. It's apparently inescapable unless you do this.
Oh, okay.
Like if you go in, you won't be able to get back out.
No, you
this,
just put torches on the left only, and then
and you know,
and then you follow him out, and then yeah.
So then,
wait, does he? Can I guess that he doesn't end up marrying this girl, and she gets real mad and murders him?
What? No, they live happily ever after, dude.
Okay.
I
mean, Theseus seems like a pretty good dude. I don't know why he goes.
He hasn't really. Yeah, I mean, like he hasn't made me hate him yet.
Yeah.
You know,
he's just bonked a lot of bad guys,
which is good. We like dudes who bonk bad guys. So Ariadne goes back to Theseus, like, "Oh, I have this thread for you," and he's like, "That's it." No, he's not. But like, I imagine it's like, "Oh, okay."
Oh wow, a string.
Oh wow, I can tie this string. And it'll get
I could have
back
gotten
up.
like 50 of these at Barnes and Nobles.
Yeah.
Not Barnes and Nobles. What am I talking about? Borders.
Michael's?
Michael's. What's Borders?
It's an old bookstore that closed.
We're thinking bookstores.
Yeah, you went Barnes and Nobles to Borders to Mike. Yeah, there you go. So then he attaches it to something near the labyrinth, right? So then Theseus tells the other tributes, right? Because there's 14 of them, like to all like stay near him, right? Stay as a group instead of like spreading out or whatever. And they slowly venture into the dark labyrinth, clutching the line of thread. And then in the deepest depths of the labyrinth, right, they make all the way through. They see it. So the beast that is part man, part bull. It specifically states that Theseus was able to kill the Minotaur using only his fists. So he just like beats the Minotaur to death.
Well, I wouldn't imagine the king would let him bring his bonk club in with him.
Right, yeah.
But a string is fine.
But some versions say that Theseus happened upon the beast while it was sleeping. So like it's sleeping, and then as he crept up to it, the beast awoke and the two engaged in like a colossal struggle, like crashing back and forth in the labyrinth and like going hand-to-hand combat. Others still say that he actually had a sword snuck like underneath like his like cloak, and then he takes out the sword and like kills it and chops off its head. So then, regardless, right? There's like a really like big fight. I assume it's like kind of a cool moment, right? Like the tributes are all there, and then he's like, "Stand back, I got this." Then he like takes the sword out of his pants or whatever, and like walks up and decapitates the thing. But so after the Minotaur has fallen, they follow the thread back out. Theseus meets up with Ariadne, and they set off to return to Athens, like so together, like all of them in the tributes. So during a pit stop in Naxos, right, which is on the way back, Dionysus descends and kidnaps Ariadne. So Theseus then woke up to find his new bride missing.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, she doesn't actually kill him.
Oh, okay.
But they don't get married.
Well, I mean, this turned out better than I thought it would.
Not for her.
Well, yeah, okay, but like I thought, you know,
the narrative
he would go back on his word. He seems like a pretty good dude.
Yeah, he searched all around for her but could not find her.
But I do know that he's not going to get a happy ending because Perseus is the only one who got a happy ending.
Yeah, it's true.
So now you've spoiled every classical story for me from this point forward.
So now he's devastated. He continues the journey home. But he's so devastated that he forgot to change the sails to white.
Oh, so he got murdered by his dad.
So his father is like watching on the horizon and he sees black sails and he's like, no! And then like throws himself off the cliff, killing himself.
Oh.
It's like, my son has died, right? Because the whole idea was like, if you survive, change the sails. So he had been gazing off the horizon from the Acropolis in Athens every day. So he sees the black sails, he hurls himself off. And then some say that he was watching from like cliffs and he throws himself into the ocean, causing the area around there to be known as the Aegean Sea.
Oh.
Yeah, so like that's like named after him because he killed himself in it. Theseus now returned home to an empty throne, right? Because now his dad's dead. And he has to kill 50 of his cousins who were all like wanting the throne.
Oh, okay. Doesn't he have the birthright though?
Yeah, but he had to kill them because they were like, you weren't here.
If it fits, I sit.
Yeah. So Theseus is able to overcome all of them, but now he rules from his throne alone, right? He's just sitting up there all by himself. So now, cut back to Minos, right? He like wakes up and he's like, oh, I'm so happy to know that all the Minotaur is well fed and all those people are dead, including the kid who showed me up by like getting my ring. And then one of his servants, I assume, has to tell him, it's like, actually they escaped.
How do they know though? Like, you can't go into the labyrinth to check.
Well, they came back out and took a ship and left.
Oh, okay.
So they must have like noticed the ship was missing.
But like, it seems like to me that there are no guards in the labyrinth.
There are no guards in the labyrinth. At the entrance, there were guards.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I assume they probably came out, Theseus bonked them or something, and then they left. So then, after hearing that Theseus and the others had escaped, Minos took his rage out on the only one like left who was associated with the labyrinth, Daedalus. And he locked him and his son Icarus away.
Wasn't he already a prisoner and locked up?
But now he's like locked up like in like a tower. He's just like all by himself. So now he's like worse off than he was. He was probably just like
in a dungeon,
able to wander. The court.
He was like a prisoner.
He was a prisoner of war, kind of almost.
Yeah.
Like he was there, but now he's a prisoner. Like he's just like in the tower by himself with his son. So then, wanting to escape, right? Daedalus constructed wings for himself and his son, and warned Icarus not to fly too close to the sun or too close to the sea, because the glue could be eroded by heat or water.
How would How'd the glue be eroded by water?
Like the spray from the sea would like mess it up or something.
Okay. What were the...
It's also wax. He used wax to kind of...
I know. He
seal
used
the
wax
feathers.
to like glue the Were the feathers from like birds? Did he like call birds up to his tower?
The mechanics are not quite gone into, but yeah, I assume it's probably like from gulls or something that were nearby. He would like lasso them and like pull them in. I don't know how he got the feathers.
Okay.
Maybe from like cushions or something like that, maybe? Cut up with
Maybe.
cushions? I'm not sure.
Hey, I need another pillow. This is like your 5th pillow you've gone through this week.
Rough sleeping.
Yeah.
So then the two of them dove out the window with their wings, but Icarus forgot the advice of his father, which I think... So there's not a lot of characterization in these kind of sources, right? But you can kind of imagine that Icarus...
He's like a kid.
He's a kid and he's been locked up like his whole life, basically, right? Like either in the kingdom or now in this tower. So now he has like his first taste of freedom. And he soared up towards the sun, causing the glue and the wax to melt, and for him to plummet into the sea that was forevermore called the Icarus Sea, which is...
Do we still have the
Yeah,
Icarus?
it's just, it's a part of them. Like the Mediterranean is like divided into like a bunch of smaller seas,
Mm-hmm.
and the Icarus Sea is like a small part.
That's cool.
Yeah. Sobbing, right? Daedalus flew to Sicily and went into hiding. That's how you say it. Minos is real mad and goes after Daedalus, trying to find him. And he figured a way to like lure him out. He's like, I know something that will get this guy to come out. I will present a seemingly impossible problem for him to solve.
He can't help himself.
He can't resist. So as he searched, he brought with him a spiral shell and a piece of thread. And he offered a large reward for anyone who could put the thread through the spirals of the shell. Or like it's like super spiraled and it can't get it all the way through.
Sure.
Minos arrived at the court of Kokkilos, which happened to be where Daedalus was hiding. And so then Minos presents this puzzle to Kokkilos, the king of this place. He's like, oh, get the string through the spiral. And Kokkilos says, oh, I can do that. And brings it to Daedalus. He's like, dude, figure this out. We'll get so much money. So what Daedalus does, he attaches a string to an ant.
Oh.
And then puts honey at the other end of the shell. And then...
How did he get the honey at the end of the shell?
Like he puts it like on the other side of the shell, and the ant's like, oh my god, I gotta crawl to this honey. So
How
he
did he
goes
get
through
all the
shell.
way in the shell?
No, like on the outside of the shell. Like he takes the shell, puts the ant in the shell, then like puts like honey over here. So then the ant crawls all the way through out the other side of the shell and to the honey.
The shell has an
Yeah, it's
exit
like
hole?
it ends in a tiny little hole.
Oh, wait, do normal shells have a
Yeah,
little
often
hole?
like they erode because they're like just in the sea for a
Oh,
long time.
okay.
He attached a string to the ant, put honey at the other end of the shell, and let the ant string through the thread. So then he returned it to Kokkilos, and Kokkilos shows it to Minos, like, look, I did this. And Minos is like, you didn't do this. Where's Daedalus? You have him here. And so then he's like, So then he brings out Daedalus. It's like, aha, I found him, finally.
He flies away.
He's like, later, losers, and like boosts up into the air. So then Kokkilos like feigns ignorance. He's like, I didn't know that this man was a prisoner of yours. Yeah, like he just showed up and like he's smart, so I kept him. And Minos is like, I understand. You're an idiot. And then like so Kokkilos is saying, okay, you'll have him in chains in the morning. I'll lock him up. But for now, why not enjoy some hospitality, right? Just have a bath. And Minos is like, I could use a bath. So he goes upstairs. And then Kokkilos is like, daughters, go and run him a bath. So then, while Minos was bathing, the daughters poured boiling water over him until he died.
Oh.
Because Kokkilos told them to do that. Because he like wants Daedalus. He's like, you're staying with me, dude. So that's the end of Minos' story.
Oh, I would have thought Theseus would be more involved in the death of Minos.
No. He just, death of his stepson.
Yeah.
But no, it was really Daedalus was the one that was like intimately connected with Minos' death. It is said that after his death, Minos became a judge in the underworld, there to pass judgment alongside a dude named Aeacus and Rhadamanthus, his brother. So now, back to Theseus, right? Some of the good things that he did as a king. He assembled all the peoples of Attica, right, this big region, into one city and named it Athens. He established a democracy rather than a monarchy. So like he started creating a democracy. He created coinage, and he basically founded what would become classical Athens. Like he kind of gave it in this, like according to this myth, obviously, he gave it kind of the qualifiers that Athens has come to be known for later, right? So when Athens is telling the story, they're like, we harken back to our founder Theseus and all these blah blah blah. So that's some of the good that he did, but he was also like really lonely, right? And he wanted someone by his side to rule. So he'd heard of a tribe of beautiful and powerful women known as the Amazons.
Don't they only have one boob?
They do only have one boob.
Oh, we talked about this in Hercules.
We did.
Yeah.
He set out and kidnapped one of them. Versions disagree, but we'll say her name is Antiope. The Amazons did not like that he had kidnapped one of them, so they marched on Athens. Theseus and the Athenian military were able to defeat the Amazons. And then Theseus and Antiope had a son whose name was Hippolytos. However, soon, Theseus was offered Phaedra, the daughter of Minos, as his bride. It's like the other daughter.
It's a little...
So Minos was dead, right? So Crete wanted a king. So they offered Phaedra to Theseus. Like, you can be the king of Crete. And Theseus is like, oh, yeah, that sounds good. So at their wedding, right? So now he's marrying Phaedra. The Amazons attacked again, this time led by Antiope. She's like, how dare you, like, ditch me.
You leave me for someone with 2 boobs?
Is this what this is about? So a battle ensued, and, like, Theseus actually ended up killing Antiope himself.
Mm-hmm.
So Theseus and Phaedra then had 2 sons. After this, right, kind of watching this, Aphrodite descends and curses Phaedra to fall in love with Hippolyte, her stepson, right, the son of Theseus and the Amazon woman. So she begged him to sleep with her, but he refused because he hated all women, because he was a devotee of Artemis, like the virgin goddess, right? So he's like, he was kind of taking up her creed of like not ever.
He was an incel.
Yeah, probably.
Femoid.
So she was then worried. It's like, oh my god, he's going to tell people that I wanted to sleep with him.
Mm-hmm.
So she tore her clothes and bedsheets and claimed that Hippolyte had raped her. Or Hippolytos had raped her. Theseus was enraged and called upon the powers of Poseidon to destroy Hippolytos. While Hippolytos was riding his chariot by the seashore, the waves nearby formed into a colossal bull, which charged the chariot, terrifying the horses. The chariot then turned over, and Hippolytos was entangled in the reins and dragged to death by his horses.
Damn.
Yeah, right? Brutal. However, eventually the curse of Aphrodite wore off, and Phaedra hung herself in shame. So now Theseus is alone again.
He has 2 children, though.
Yeah, but you know, he wants a wife.
Sure.
And now his wife, he killed his Amazon wife, and his other wife killed herself.
Mm-hmm.
So now he was like really lonely, and we cut to this other dude whose name was Pirithous. And Pirithous had heard tales of Theseus' strength and bravery, so he wanted to see it for himself. So Pirithous went and stole a bunch of cattle from Theseus and then ran away with them. Theseus then heard about this and chased after him. Pirithous heard that Theseus was chasing after him and then turned to face him in battle. He's like, oh, I finally get to see what this man can do. The two were so in awe of each other's like rockin' bods that they just
They start flexing.
They were just like, oh my god.
This is like the scene in Fullmetal Alchemist.
Yeah, where there's like, oh. They clasp arms and they're like, we are now best friends.
We're now brothers.
Eventually, Pirithous extended his hand, saying that he would accept any punishment for what he had done to Theseus. Theseus said the only repercussion would be that Pirithous
is his friend.
Is my friend. Yeah, I'm so lonely. So soon, he was invited to Pirithous' wedding. So Pirithous was getting married to Hippodamia, is her name. So now Pirithous, little backstory about him real quick. Pirithous himself was a child of Centauros, who's the father of all centaurs. Though, like, he wasn't a centaur himself. He was just a dude.
He was the human part of the centaur.
Yeah.
This human dude had sex with a horse, and that made the centaur.
Kind of. It's more like I think he had sex with, like, a goddess, and then, like, centaurs just happened.
Okay.
I wish it was, like, as simple as... I wish it was as simple as him just having sex with a horse.
How come a dude can't have sex with a horse and make a centaur, but a lady can have sex with a bull and make a minotaur?
That's true. Centaurs are just, like, accepted members of society, whereas the minotaur is locked up in a labyrinth.
True.
This is, like, speciesism? Like, cows versus horses? Or maybe it's just the fact the top half is human. Like, that's what they like. Like, they can communicate and stuff. Whereas, like, when the minotaur tried to talk, he was just like,
they got lips to kiss with.
Or whatever. Yeah, I guess. So therefore, right, at the wedding, all the centaurs were there, right? Because, like, they're all his relatives.
Mm-hmm. Those centaurs were disliked.
They are kind of disliked.
Okay.
But they're still, like, probably out of obligation, he had to invite them.
Mm-hmm.
The centaurs got drunk and rowdy. And when
they do get crazy when they smell wine.
And the bride was brought out, they tried to rape her.
Oh.
Yeah.
Really good
wedding guests. Yeah, right? So Pirithous and Theseus, like, leapt to their feet, and together they fought all the centaurs off.
Mm-hmm.
Is
there, like, an offshoot, like, buddy cop, or, like, a...
Dude, I swear, maybe it's just because of what I like, but, like, the amount of, like, buddy cop vibes
like
that I get from, like, these kind of stories is, like, in, like, the triple digits already. So they leapt to their feet and fought off the centaurs, working well with each other, and thus, like, their bond was strengthened. They were like, oh, man, we're so good. So despite the fact that Pirithous' wife was still alive, right, they just got married, the two made an agreement that they would both marry daughters of Zeus. They're like, we're going to marry daughters of Zeus. Let's go get them. So thus, the two of them went to Sparta and abducted Helen, the famous one.
Of Troy.
This
is what started the war?
No. Because remember, Zeus had sex with the woman as a goose, and then Helen came from that. Uh-huh. So she's daughter of Zeus.
Did she come out from an egg?
According to some sources,
okay.
Which I don't like.
Uh-huh.
I'd rather she was just born normal.
Uh-huh.
So for Theseus, right? So Theseus is like, I'm going to marry Helen. So then the two of them decided, okay, let's, for some reason, we have much higher sights set for Pirithous.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go, and he's going to marry Persephone. the wife of Hades from the underworld.
Damn.
So we're going to go to the underworld and get her.
Okay.
So they go down to the underworld together. And while they were gone, the Lacedaemonians and the Arcadians were like groups of people, right? Who team up with, who are allies of Sparta. They attack Athens and take back Helen and install like a new king there, right? Because Theseus, the king, was gone.
Mm-hmm.
So they show up, they take back Helen, and then they install a new king. So then the pair, right, Perseus and Theseus are like walking into the underworld and they're like, Hades, what's up? We want your wife for this guy. And Hades is like,
I can't contest. That man's too hot.
He's like, hey, flex for me real quick. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah,
I understand.
Yeah.
So weirdly enough, Hades is like very accommodating. He's like, oh, of course. We'll have a feast first though, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh yeah, we like feasts. We've been walking for a while. So he's like, oh, sit down on this big couch thing. It's like a chair, but it's big enough for both of them to sit on. So he's like,
it's a two-person chair.
It's like a love seat.
It's not quite a. What's a love seat?
It's like a chair, kind of.
Okay.
So they both sat down on this one large chair, and as they sit down, their minds start to go fuzzy. They're like, "What's going on? Hey, what is this chair?" And Hades is like, "Oh, that's the throne of Forgetfulness." And they're like, "What? What's it called?" So then, the stone of the chair fused with their skin, and the two were then bound with snakes. So snakes come out of the chair and wrap them up, and they're also bound to the chair with their skin.
The snakes seem a little bit of.
I know, right? I think Hades just has a flair for the dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
And then their minds went blank, like completely forgetting like why they were there, who they were, right? They're just like, they're nothingness now.
Mm-hmm.
And then later, so when Heracles is in the underworld, when he's getting Cerberus,
Oh, yeah?
he also rescues Theseus. That's like a thing. That's a thing that he
You
does.
didn't mention that.
I didn't know about it.
Oh.
So later, Heracles rescues him. So he rescues Theseus, but he left Perseus because he didn't know who that guy was.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, man, that dude's hot. Shame I don't know him. And left him in the chair, I guess. Theseus is grateful and returns to Athens.
Wait, Theseus wasn't like, hey, that's my dude.
No,
I guess he forgot.
Probably
him.
just didn't remember. And then when he gets up to the back to like the
Mm-hmm.
overworld, he's like, oh man,
It's
thank
a
you.
little awkward to ask him to go back and get my guy. Like,
Yeah. It's like, oh man.
It's like when you're a kid and you're being drove into school
And you
and
forgot
you're like,
something?
Yeah, you're halfway there. You're like, Mom, I
I'm
forgot
not
my
wearing
backpack.
shoes,
Yeah.
Mom. So Theseus returns to Athens, but finds in the possession of like another, right? Because they installed a new king. He was then driven away, where he fled to a nearby ally of Athens, Cicros, but was killed there by being thrown into an abyss.
Okay.
So-
By who?
By the king of Cicros, like who's an ally of Athens, but now Athens is like ruled by a different king. So
Okay.
he's an ally of that king
Gotcha.
and not Theseus anymore. So according to Plutarch, the ship that Theseus traveled back to Athens from Crete, right, where he like rescued the people of the Minotaur, remained in the harbor for centuries. The ship was able to remain intact because whenever a board would rot, it would be replaced. This led to the Theseus ship paradox. Is it like even still the same ship? That's like kind of the legacy. Like so, according to Plutarch, he says, and then people were like, I don't know if it's the same ship. So that's kind of like the origin. Who knows if that's necessarily true? But like people in Athens, like centuries later, still believe that like, oh, this is Theseus' ship.
Do we still have it?
No,
Oh my god.
I wish.
Right?
So regardless, it was a vessel through which Athens could connect themselves to their hero, right? Be like,
To
oh,
their founder.
this is like Theseus' ship.
Mm-hmm.
This is like the one that he sailed back in when he killed the Minotaur, like that kind of thing. So it really like connected them. Centuries later, Cimon, who's like an important figure in Athens, was told by an oracle to find the bones of Theseus, right? Because he was killed like nearby, like in a nearby ally, but it wasn't in Athens. And he was told to find the bones of Theseus and return them to Athens, like for a rightful burial. Cimon searched and eventually sees an eagle picking at a mound of earth. And he's like, oh, perfect. So he digs under that mound of earth and he finds a large coffin as well as a bronze spear. I wish it was the club, but they say it's a spear. Like, okay, I guess he had a spear. He then brings the coffin back to Athens where it remained in the heart of the city for centuries.
Okay.
So is there any lesson that we can take away from... Maybe sometimes just stick with the one with one boob.
Yeah, right?
Why like
If you get greedy for more boobs, you're going to get 0 boobs in the end. And
It's
that's our conclusion.
yeah.
Have a good day, everyone.
Bye.